Overheard on the show already this week, the NL Central is going to be a dogfight. Joel Sherman manning the inside corner, bringing some clarity like only he can. Good Tuesday morning to you, my friend. Usually when you look at the landscape of a division, you can say pitching will win it or bats, pop will win it. What do you think when you look at the NL Central from a wide lens? Good morning.
Good morning, Lauren. Lauren, first thing I want to talk about is the 2024 draft. Which isn't even 2 years old, and already we got some stuff last year. If you notice, Nick Kurtz was picked fourth. He was the AL Rookie of the Year last year. Trey Yasevich was as big a reason as the Blue Jays. When he came up down the stretch, got as far as they got to Game 7 of the World Series. But I would look at that 2, 7, and 9. Chase Burns has been one of the better. It's only 2 starts, but. Jumped right into the Reds rotation this year, is helping them deal with the absence of Hunter Green and Nick Lodolo. J.J. Werther, part of the rebuild in St. Louis, is playing second base every day. And, of course, we at the network got very excited. Pittsburgh certainly got excited. The whole sport got excited. Connor Griffin got brought up last week. He's the #1 prospect in the sport, the shortstop from the Pirates, and it certainly got everyone's attention about the Pirates' intention this year. They didn't keep the guy down there. They're trying to win some games.
It's so fun to look back at draft order, right, with a little bit more clarity and think of what could have been.
And by the way, can I throw in one other thing?
Do it.
Cam Smith was on that board, and he was drafted in the division by the Cubs, and he was traded to Houston for Kyle Tucker, and he had a 462-foot homer last night. It was the longest one of the season so far.
More talent coming from a couple years ago. We decided, Joel, yesterday on the show that we're not going to say what makes the Brewers so good. I feel like it was almost, offensive. They have crazy talent. They have a manager that requires and promotes buy-in. When you look at the Cubs and the Brewers in terms of class of the National League Central, where do they stand long-term in terms of success, Joel?
Yeah, the Brewers don't make traditional sense because their most established best players, most of them leave, and they keep getting better. Corbin Burns left, they got better. Willie Adames and Devin Williams left. They had the best record in the sport last year. And this year they traded their next ace, Freddie Peralta, to the Mets. And they're sitting here at 8-2. It's tied with the Dodgers for the best record in the sport. They're plus 30. It's second to the Dodgers. They do it a variety of ways. Can I highlight one of them? They have 21 steals. It's 9 more than anyone else. They put a lot of pressure on the other team. They have 6 guys who've stolen 3 or more bases, so it comes up and down their lineup. And just when you look at the Cubs, I think they're so tied to the Brewers. If I were making a pressure meter, I think the Cubs would be right there with teams like, the Yankees and the Mets and the Red Sox and the Dodgers for who has the most pressure on them this season. Well, let's start with their Brewer tie. The Brewers manager left the Brewers, Craig Counsell, when he came to the Cubs on a record contract. Since he's left, the Brewers have won the division each year, and his successor, Pat Murphy, has been the manager of the year. They have a record payroll this year. They signed Alex Bregman in the offseason. They just did 2 big extensions with PCA and Nico Horner. They're in a go-for-it mode, and they should be. I think of their old head of baseball operations, Theo Epstein, when he traded for Aroldis Chapman, and he gave up a big prospect base, and people said, "What are you doing?" And the team hadn't won since 1908. And he said, if not now, when? I feel like even though this is the 10th anniversary, if not now, when? And look, the news hasn't been great early this season. They put Matthew Boyd on the IL yesterday. And Jesse Rogers of ESPN reported that the initial reads on Cade Horton's MRIs are not great. And that's 2 starters. And if Horton is lost for an extended period, they'll get Justin Steele, they feel, back at some point, but they're under a lot of pressure to win, and they probably couldn't have taken a lot of hits in the rotation, and they've taken 2 huge ones so far early this year.
It's so much talent on those 2 teams. There's a lot to like, though, Joel, on the teams we haven't mentioned yet. I feel like the Cardinals are finding ways to win their own game. The Reds are doing big things without Green and Lodolo and the injuries there. And then who else? The Pirates. I mean, we've talked about this at length. They can pitch at #1, and they added some pieces that we haven't seen in a long time. What excites you most about those 3 teams?
Well, let's start with the Pirates, which if you're going to have Griffin and Skeens, you're going to get attention in a place that hasn't gotten attention for a while. And look, they have to win Only the Angels have gone longer without making the playoffs since the Pirates, who were last in 2015. They spent some money in the offseason. Ozuna hasn't hit, but Brandon Lau and Ryan O'Hearn sure have. O'Neal Cruz, after a tough first weekend against the Mets, has really hit. And even though they traded a couple of starters in the offseason, you can see this is a really good rotation. And Jared Jones is sitting out there, who didn't pitch last year after Tommy John surgery. They think they're going to get him back late May, early June to make this even deeper. They're a real go-for-it team. The Reds, look, the Reds are not scoring any runs. They have the second fewest in baseball, but this is the formula was to get into the playoffs last year was starting pitching, starting pitching, starting pitching. If you look at Chase Burns, Andrew Abbott, and Rhett Lauder, they have a 1.87 ERA through combined 6 starts this season. And you mentioned it, Lodolo and Hunter Green are sitting out there as perhaps gifts to get at some point this year. To me, this is going to be, is Suarez going to hit some home runs for them? You know, Friedel and Steer have gotten off terrible. They need those guys to hit to put some real pressure. And look, the Cardinals, it's been since the early 1990s since they missed the playoffs 4 straight years. It could happen again this year where they would miss it for a 4th straight year. We mentioned Weatherholt. I would say the good news early is that guy, is Jordan Walker, who has really hit early this season, and it's easy to forget. He doesn't even turn 24 to next month. They need good things to happen to their young players to build something for the future. And if this season went great for Walker and Weatherholt, the W&W boys, it would feel really good for the Cardinals.
A fun look at an interesting division. 97 wins, won the NL Central a year ago, and the Brewers dominated. What will 2026 bring?